Every time I go grocery shopping, I always stock up on parchment paper. People think I'm buying way too much. But after you see these 7 clever tricks, you'll understand exactly why. In fact, the next time you go to the store, you might find yourself doing the same thing. Let's start with one of the biggest reasons I always keep parchment paper in my kitchen. Have you ever tried smashing several cloves of garlic on a cutting board only to have them slide in every direction? Fortunately, there's an easy solution. Start by laying a sheet of parchment paper flat on your cutting board. Place the peeled garlic cloves on top, leaving a little space between each one so they have room to flatten evenly. Now, fold the other half of the parchment paper over the garlic, completely covering the cloves. Grab a meat mallet and gently pound across the surface. The parchment paper keeps the garlic from sliding around while also preventing tiny pieces from flying onto the countertop. After a few firm taps, open the parchment paper and take a look. The garlic has been crushed just the way you wanted, soft, evenly flattened, and ready to use. If you'd like it even finer, give it a few more gentle taps while it's still covered. When you're finished, simply use the side of a knife to scrape the crushed garlic straight into a bowl. There's no need to gather little pieces from all over the cutting board, and cleanup is much quicker because the parchment paper caught almost everything. Here's another reason I always keep plenty of parchment paper in my kitchen. If you're already seasoning meat with your family's favorite spices, why not prepare a few extra pieces for another day? Start by coating each piece of meat in your wet batter or egg mixture. Then press it into the breadcrumbs until every side is evenly coated. Now here's the trick. Line the bottom of a food storage container with a sheet of parchment paper. Place the breaded meat on top in a single layer, making sure the pieces don't touch. If you're stacking more than one layer, simply place another sheet of parchment paper over the first layer before adding more meat. Repeat the process until the container is full. Seal the container and place it in the freezer. The next time you need a quick dinner, simply take out the container and lift out as many pieces as you need. Thanks to the parchment paper between each layer, the meat separates easily without pulling off the crispy coating. Now they're ready to fry or cook straight from frozen according to your preferred method. Just a few minutes later, you'll have beautifully golden, crispy meat on the outside with juicy, tender meat inside, just as delicious as the day you prepared it. Have you ever looked at your bathroom faucet and noticed those stubborn white calcium deposits that seem impossible to remove? Instead of scrubbing endlessly, try using a piece of parchment paper. Simply tear off a sheet and gently rub it over the surface of the faucet. Paying extra attention to the areas with water spots and mineral buildup. As you buff the metal, you'll notice the surface gradually becoming smoother and shinier. The thin silicone coating on most parchment paper can help polish the faucet and leave behind a light protective layer that makes new water spots less noticeable for a while. The difference is amazing. The faucet now has a bright, polished shine. Fingerprints are less visible, and the metal looks much cleaner without using harsh chemicals or spending several minutes scrubbing. Have you ever used parchment paper for anything other than baking? I'd love to know which of today's tricks surprised you the most, so let me know in the comments. I've saved one of my favorite parchment paper tricks for that. If you love juicy, tender chicken, you're going to want to try this one. Start by seasoning your chicken drumsticks with your favorite spices and let them marinate for a while so the flavors have time to soak into the meat. Next, prepare 1 sheet of parchment paper and 1 sheet of aluminum foil. Here's the secret. Take the parchment paper, crumple it into a loose ball, then run it under cold water. Once it's thoroughly wet, gently squeeze out the excess water. The paper should be damp, not dripping. Now unfold the damp parchment paper and lay it on top of the sheet of aluminum foil. Place the seasoned chicken drumstick in the center. Wrap it first with the damp parchment paper, then seal everything with the aluminum foil. Transfer the wrapped chicken to the air fryer and bake until it's fully cooked. When it's done, carefully open the foil. A cloud of hot steam escapes, and inside, you'll find a beautifully cooked drumstick that's incredibly juicy. The damp parchment paper helps create a gentle steaming environment around the chicken, while the outer layer of foil keeps the moisture trapped inside throughout the cooking process. The meat is tender, succulent, and full of flavorful juices with hardly any dryness at all. Do you prefer your roasted chicken with crispy skin or extra juicy meat? Let me know your favorite in the comments. I'm sure there's at least one jacket handbag or pair of jeans in your home with a zipper that's become difficult to pull. Every time you try to zip it up, it catches halfway. Before you think about replacing it, try this simple trick. Take a sheet of parchment paper and crumple it into a loose ball so it's easier to hold. Now rub the parchment paper firmly along both sides of the zipper teeth, working from top to bottom several times. The thin silicone coating on the parchment paper transfers just enough to reduce friction between the zipper teeth, helping the slider move more smoothly. Now, try pulling the zipper again. Instead of catching or jerking, it glides up and down much more easily. This is a quick solution to help you avoid struggling to pull the zipper, which could lead to damage later on. Have you ever struggled with a stubborn zipper like this? Let me know in the comments if you're going to try this parchment paper trick. If you've ever grated a lemon, you've probably noticed that a lot of the zest gets stuck inside the grater instead of ending up in your bowl. And by the time you're finished, you've lost a surprising amount of those fragrant lemon oils. Fortunately, there's a very simple fix. Before you start, place a sheet of parchment paper tightly over the surface of your grater. Hold it firmly in place, then grate the lemon exactly as you normally would. The sharp edges of the grater will still cut through the parchment paper while removing the thin outer layer of the lemon peel. At the same time, the parchment paper keeps the zest from getting trapped inside the grater's holes. When you've finished grating, simply lift the sheet of parchment paper. Look at that! Almost all of the freshly grated lemon zest is sitting right on top of the parchment paper, making it incredibly easy to collect. Now gently fold the parchment paper into a funnel and pour the lemon zest straight into your cup. Add warm water, a little honey if you like, and give it a quick stir. In just a minute, you have a fresh, fragrant cup of lemon water filled with all that bright citrus aroma that would otherwise have been left behind in the grater. Let's finish with one more parchment paper trick that might save you the most cleanup of all. Think about the last time you fried sausages in a pan. The sausages turned out delicious, but afterward, you were left with a greasy pan covered in splattered oil and browned bits that needed to be scrubbed clean. Instead, try this simple trick. Place a sheet of parchment paper directly into your frying pan. Then, add a small amount of oil right on top of the parchment paper and cook the sausages just as you normally would. As they cook, the parchment paper acts as a barrier between the food and the pan while still allowing the sausages to brown beautifully. The oil and cooking residue stay mostly on the parchment paper instead of baking onto the surface of the pan. When the sausages are perfectly golden, transfer them to a serving plate. Slightly lift out the used sheet of parchment paper and throw it away. Take a look at the pan. Instead of being coated with grease and stuck on residue, it's remarkably clean. And that's the end of today's video. Now you know exactly why I always come home from the grocery store with more than one roll of parchment paper. Which hack are you most excited to try first? Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed these ideas, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who loves clever kitchen hacks. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.